The story of Edgar Valdez Villerreal, alias La Barbie, is a drug trafficker who had a drastic change in his adolescence, from being a promising linebacker in high school, to becoming a worldwide known drug lord. Luxuries, women, and violence made up the life of Edgar Valdez, the right-hand man of Arturo Beltran Leyva, alias El Botas Blancas, the leader of the Beltran Leyva cartel. In addition to being friends and business partner of Arturo, Valdez worked in hand with the biggest names in Mexican drug trafficking. All thanks to the Beltran Leyva organization being part of the Sinaloa Federation, a group of organized crime, headed by Joaquin Guzman Loera, alias El Chapo. The Sinaloa cartel was a criminal group without precedents, due to them eliminating rivalries between drug groups within Sinaloa, which permitted their goal to become reality, peace and profit for all. That's how Edgar Valdez pretended to be an independent trafficker and collaborate with members of the Sinaloan Federation and empower his criminal group. Before Valdez immigrated to Mexico, he had already been committing crimes since his adolescence. In the state of Texas, he trafficked marijuana and at the same time played football for United High School, in Laredo, Texas, as a defensive linebacker with great talent. So much talent, that if he chose to go to college, he would have played in the NCAA. His alias, La Barbie, was coined by his high school football coach, due to his pale skin and blue eyes that reminded him of a Ken doll. La Barbie was a valiant operator due to his criminal skills, logistics, and contacts in the United States, who were key pieces for the shipment of drugs across the border. Edgar Valdez Villarreal was born on the 11th of August, 1973, in Laredo, Texas. La Barbie, of Mexican descent, met at an early age the life of crime. At age 20, Valdez had been detained and accused of negligent homicide. He was accused of running over a counselor who worked at the student center at the high school. After the charges were dropped, his criminal career was barely commencing. It was after this supposed homicide that Valdez would take marijuana trafficking more serious, converting into a trafficker in the streets of Laredo. It wasn't long until the authorities caught wind of La Barbie's illicit activities, which prompted him to flee to Mexico, to evade arrest. Once in Mexico, La Barbie was able to establish himself definitively in the drug trade. Without a doubt his biggest moment would be meeting the Beltran Leyva brothers. In those times they were loyal partners to Joaquin Guzman and the Sinaloa cartel. It was thanks to the Beltran Leyva brothers that he was able to build a network of corrupt police and military, who would be key pieces to La Barbie's operations. La Barbie's career went from a small-time trafficker in the streets of Laredo, to a key member of the most powerful cartel in the world. Edgar Valdez was not a common criminal. His ease of operating among the trafficking world permitted him to grow rapidly and gain the confidence of his men due to his good performance. Soon he began trafficking cocaine, negotiating directly with Colombian providers, which goes to show he had a lot of power. La Barbie was also a key figure for the Sinaloa cartel's war against the Gulf cartel and their armed wing, Los Zetas. We can easily say, La Barbie formed one of the most creative and bloodiest armed wings in the history of Mexico. Edgar Valdez was very lucky in Texas, being able to escape all of the occasions that the authorities had him in arm's reach. After evading his arrest, he set up shop in Nuevo Laredo, right across the border from Laredo. He immediately got in contact with the right people to continue trafficking cocaine through his connections with the Mexican and Colombian cartels. La Barbie's activities did not go well with the Nuevo Laredo Plaza owners. The Zetas would ultimately oust La Barbie from Nuevo Laredo, which led to him changing cities. The Gulf cartel going to Monterrey would end up paying dearly for having messed with La Barbie. Since then he was already installed in Monterrey, he was able to connect with Arturo Beltran Leyva, who would integrate him into the Sinaloa cartel, where great drug lords like El Chapo, El Mayo, Nacho Coronel, and the Beltran Leyva brother were working together. They immediately made him a part of the bloody war that they waged against the Gulf cartel and the Zetas. Barbie turned out to be an excellent strategist for the aforementioned war, collaborating with brilliant ideas against their enemies. Valdez began recruitment tasks to organize the war against the Gulf cartel, by bringing extremely dangerous gang members from Central America, particularly El Salvador. MS-13 members were trained ferociously by the Sinaloa cartel using their countless resources, having ex-military and police on their payroll. Los Zetas were an armed wing made up of mostly elite ex-military, a fact for which they were not easy to neutralize. This is why La Barbie assembled a fairly powerful army to face those from the Gulf and Zetas. Barbie's intelligence allowed him to successfully face this war, consolidating himself as a valuable asset for the Sinaloans, due to the fact that the territory they were fighting for was vital for the shipment of drugs into the United States. Finally, Valdez fulfilled his mission, waging a violent war with the help of the Sinaloans and the Mexican authorities that supported them. Posterior to this, The group of sicarios that La Barbie formed would stay at the cartel's service to carry out different tasks for the cartel, but this time even more deadly and violently creative. The life that Edgar Valdez lived had always been full of controversy, but nothing has caused as much astonishment as the fact that La Barbie was an informant for the DEA. After the performance that Valdez had at the service of the Sinaloa cartel and particularly the Beltran Leyva brothers, one would think that La Barbie would be a loyal element to those who gave him access to being a well-known capo, but to everyone's surprise it was not like that according to official information. Valdez at some point in the year 2004, made contact with the Department of Justice of the state of Texas. Edgar Valdez wanted the Department of Justice to drop all the charges against him, so he could operate freely and without worry of being arrested by the U.S. authorities. The Americans agreed, but they put one condition: they wanted Valdez to provide information that would lead to the capture of Joaquin Guzman Loera and Arturo Beltran Leyva, his boss and friend at the time. Edgar Valdez at that time refused to betray those who have given him an important place within the Sinaloa cartel. Years later things would change for La Barbie, after a break between El Chapo and the Beltran Leyva brothers. It would unleash a war that would force Valdez to choose a side. It was then in 2008, with the war in full effect, Valdez used his people to contact the DEA, but on this occasion he was willing to cooperate with the U.S. agency. Since by cooperating with said agency, he could continue working as a trafficker protected by the Mexican authorities and with the shield of knowing the U.S. would not touch him. Valdez became a double agent working for the cartel and the DEA. During the years 2008 and 2009, until his capture in 2010. Valdez began to share information with the DEA while carrying out his duties with the cartel, resulting in politicians and corrupt police to believing that when they were sitting down and negotiating with Barbie, they could control and blackmail him, but to their surprise, the details of their meeting were being reported to the DEA by Valdez. In 2009, with information provided by La Barbie, members of the Mexican Navy killed Arturo Beltran Leyva in an operation that took place in Cuernavacas, Morelos. The death of Arturo would be an event that led to two important events. First, after Arturo's death the Beltran Leyva organization would begin to fade away little by little, and second, La Barbie gained strength becoming the boss of the Acapulco Plaza. La Barbie was not only famous for his exploits in the drug world. He was also well known in the artistic world. Since El Chapo rubbed shoulders with people from the Mexican show business, it was well known that La Barbie also had a rather controversial and crazy nightlife, organizing exclusive parties in nightclubs and bars, attended by various famous celebrities. Among the most famous clubs where he attended was the Dadio nightclub in Cancun, and the Bar located in Mexico City. La Barbie's longest-lasting romance was with Priscilla Montemayor, daughter of Carlos Montemayor, a known ally and partner of La Barbie. Edgar fell deeply in love with his partner's daughter to such a degree that he was about to marry her, but the long-awaited wedding could not happen, since when everything was ready, the kingpin was alerted by the Secretary of Public Security, who informed him that the Mexican authorities and international authorities were carrying out an operation to arrest him at his wedding. Which is why La Barbie decided not to appear at that place. Without a doubt, his alleged most scandalous romance was with the Mexican actress, Arlette Terran, with whom they say he had an intense love affair despite continuing with Priscilla Montemayor. Witnesses assured, Edgar Valdez was deeply in love with Arlette, which who he gave expensive gifts, and he was also seen in the company of the actress in exclusive bars and clubs. Edgar also had a relationship with Juana Hilda Gonzalez Lomeli, romance of which there are little details, but was confirmed by the exotic dancer herself. La Barbie had a controversial life in drug trafficking because of his qualities that made him powerful, intelligent, and a reckless boss, but those same qualities also led him to be a real heartthrob and trendsetter in show business, relating to some women. But now let's move on to the most important point in La Barbie's life. Sometime after his capture in 2010, Edgar Valdez was extradited to the United States, where he had a long wait to finally be sentenced. La Barbie was admitted to a prison in the state of Florida, a fact that meant an accomplishment for the authorities, but a few months ago, the whereabouts of La Barbie came into question, because he does not appear in the custody of the Federal Prison Agency. Which is why many doubts have arisen, particularly on behalf of the Mexican government. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has requested information from the United States about the whereabouts of Edgar Valdez. La Barbie not appearing in custody causes uncertainty about if he is still in prison or if he is free. This is because he isn't a common prisoner, he is one of the most prolific and violent drug traffickers in organized crime. Edgar Valdez has undoubtedly been one of the most dangerous drug traffickers in the world. His intelligence made him stand out from the other bosses, which is why he was able to work with the most power cartel in the world. Barbie
Gracias.
was one of the pioneers in implementing extremely violent methods in order to instill fear in his rivals and civilians. For example, recording tortures and murders, he carried out on his rivals, sending a message to his enemies demonstrating what would happen to them if they messed with him. All this added to his reputation he acquired from confronting those who were the most bloodiest criminal group in Mexico, Los Zetas. Who Valdez never feared. Do you think he stiked a deal with the DEA for his freedom? Or do you think he is still somewhere hidden in the prison system?